Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Scandal Queens podcast. It's me, EB, your host, and we have a really fun episode ready to go for you today. I know you guys are used to the usual kind of layout, right? Like we present the facts and we go through the evidence and we decide if the person is toxic. But that's not what we're doing today. If you've watched the last podcast on the left, you're probably familiar with a thing called Relaxed Fit, and that is very much in the style of what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking the royals, and it's just going to be casual, what comes off the top of our heads, and who knows what nonsense is going to come out. Even better, I have a special guest here for you today. His name is Johnny Wizzz. You might know him from TikTok, professional blabber and yabber, and one of my favorite political voices on TikTok, to be totally honest. Welcome, Johnny.
Hello. Thanks.
How are you doing today?
I am great. Living the dream, you know, another day under capitalism. What more could you ask for?
Always a blast, right?
Yes.
Crushed under the wheel. Cool. Well, yeah, we're just going to jump right in. We're going to talk the royals because I don't think you really get bigger scandals than the royal family because they've been doing it for like, what, a millennia now?
Right.
So, that's what we'll jump into. I thought it'd be fun to just kind of start right off the top because when you talk royals, everybody kind of goes immediately to Meghan and Harry. And they just don't seem to be able to keep themselves out of the press. And at first it was like kind of a sympathetic thing, right? Like, I don't think any of us deny that Meghan's probably been through some racism at the hands of the family and all that kind of stuff. But they keep, it's almost like this whining cycle now of like, poor me and I'm the victim. What do you think about that? Have you kind of noticed that with them?
Okay, well, here's the thing. Like, I think they need money. Yes. I think they need money. And they know that, like, given their status of like who they are or who they were, because they're not officially like they don't have like royal duties anymore. But I think they are just using that to their advantage because they know people will always want to hear about it. And I think they are now fully embracing celebrity status. You know what I mean? They didn't really need, they had a level of celebrity, obviously, when they were like in the royal family, but they didn't really need it. Yeah. They could just exist and like it didn't matter. But now they need to like capitalize off of
how to earn a living without daddy's money.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I thought that as well. And people thought I was crazy because I said it almost feels like they're taking a page out of the Kardashian book, how the Kardashians do all this kind of scandal marketing for themselves now to kind of stay relevant. And it felt like that kind of from the Oprah interview on.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, like, for the Oprah interview, like, I did obviously feel really bad, especially for Meghan. Like, not because, I mean, part of me is like, okay, well, you like knew who you were marrying and you knew like what family you were marrying into. Yeah. Especially in this day and age, like, especially because she wasn't raised, like, at least with Diana, like she was raised adjacent.
Yeah. She was in the system.
She was like in the system already. So it was it's one of those things where you either break out of the system and live like a pauper, or you just kind of embrace the fact that you're in it and do it the best with what you got. But like Meghan didn't really, she wasn't in that. No. And so I do feel like she genuinely, if I had to guess, I do feel like she genuinely like has a connection with Harry. Like, I don't think she was clout chasing or anything, but so I do feel bad for her. I really genuinely do, because I do think she like chose love, but like also wasn't realistic about the fact that like, oh my God, I'm marrying into not just a potentially racist family, but a definitely racist system. Like,
exactly. Yeah. That's
like, I just feel like she had to have known at least a little bit.
Yeah. That's
before she like put a ring on it. Do you know what I'm saying?
You had to have. Like, she doesn't even like Google Prince Philip. Like 5 minutes Googling Prince Philip should have told her what family she was going to be.
Right. And they were like together for a while. I don't know exactly how long they were together before they got married. Like, there was plenty of time to like suss out the situation.
Yeah. Again, I'm not going to ever believe that she got introduced to the family and Philip didn't immediately say something terrible. Like, I'll never be convinced of that.
Right. And that's, yeah. Yeah. And so I do feel bad for her. I do. It's not that I don't, because like obviously nobody deserves, even you know what I mean? Like we all put ourselves in situations and we know like potential bad outcomes, but so I'm not saying she deserved it or whatever, but I just, part of me is also like, okay, like you told us, we know, we feel bad. Now it's like, now what?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like I feel absolutely she's gotten unfair treatment. Like none of us are going to argue.
Even from the media in the
100%.
aftermath of everything. Like it was 100%. Just so disgusting. 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely. But like I got frustrated because it was like when those conversations were happening with Harry and Meghan and they were sitting on the Oprah interview, literally when they were sitting on the Oprah interview, there were protests and marches happening for Breonna Taylor. And I thought, wow, what a great time to use this platform and kind of like give voice to this, give attention to this, kind of point people to that, because you're sitting here telling us that that's what you've experienced. Like you've experienced this racism and this unfair treatment, which is undeniable. Right. So like, let's mobilize that for other Black women who are, you know, being killed in their homes and getting like really hardcore treatment. So that disappointed me. And like, it's good that she exposed it, but now it does feel like it's become more of this, like the story for the money than like fixing it or doing, I don't know. It seems a bit off to me. Right. It's like, yeah, it's kind of like when your friend like is dating a really terrible guy and then they break up and it's like, okay, like, yes, I'm here for you in like the aftermath of it, but now it's been a couple years. Yeah, let's move on. And you're still harping on it. Yeah, and it's not that what happened to you is good, not that it's okay in any way, but like it's been a couple years. Let's move the dial a little bit. That's kind of where I'm at with that situation. Yeah, but I will say the fact that he was willing to break free from that, like not just his immediate family, but like that whole system. Yeah, I really do genuinely think that they like care and love each other. Oh, 100%. I think that they're. And so I will say that like, despite the fact that they're like definitely harping on the situation, probably to make money and to stay relevant. I will say I do genuinely believe that they like actually care about each other. Oh yeah. Which is kind of sweet. Yeah. It's better than Will and Kate probably. Talk about, I have zero empathy for Kate. I have none. Oh no, she's just none. Like a horse in a stall, man. She was just kind of like bred for the stables, and that's what was always going to happen. Like, did you hear? I didn't know this. Also, I guess I should say I'm not like an aficionado. I should say for the people listening, I'm not an aficionado of the family. Yeah. So I just like am a hater before anything else. Before I am a human being, I am a hater, and so that's why I know the stuff that I know about them. But I did hear, and maybe I'm late to the game. I recently learned that Kate's mom like looked into like the schools that the princes were going to. Yeah. And like she got her into the schools so that they would meet and be in the same circles and grow up together. Yep. Yeah, I didn't know that until I moved here to the UK, but that's kind of like the joke here. Like when I was still living in America, I was like, wow, Kate Middleton, class and grace. And she came from this working class background. And it's like none of that was really true. And everyone here always has been like, no, she was bred for this. That's literally what they say when you talk to people about her here. They're like, this is what she was bred for. Like her, this is what she was created for. Yeah, which is insane. That is so crazy. Yeah, it's very weird. Yeah. And yeah, the whole thing is nuts. I do, again, like there is a level of empathy that I have, of course, because she is still like a woman existing in the world. More hate and like them because of that. And and like and it is kind of sad the fact that she was bred for this because she doesn't know anything else and she didn't really have an opportunity to break free from that. How great would it be if she had like a Kesha revolution and just like said F it to the whole system and one day just broke and went wild? I wonder what that would look like. I would love to see that. I would too. Be like Diana partying with Freddie Mercury, you know? Right. Yeah, I would love to see that. But I don't know. I think there is a level of empathy that I have for her, but I'm also like, okay, girl, you knew what you were doing. You had, 100%. And it's also the stuff recently, like with the cancer and is she missing? Has she disappeared? What's going on? That as well is just kind of putting me back a little bit. And the AI videos and all that stuff has made me feel different a little. Yeah. Different how? What do you mean? Well, so when she she announced in December that she was going to be away for like 3 to 4 months. And they their official statements were, don't ask about her. Don't look for her. 3 to 4 months. She'll be back after Easter. Right. And it seemed pretty obvious to me, who sees these women in these circles that move here, and that it was like, okay, she's going to go and get a facelift before she becomes queen. And there was like medical experts talking about that could be a potential thing. And I feel like a lot of the drumming up of the scandal around her being missing and things is maybe not 100% honest, because I don't know many people who come back from cancer treatment looking 10 years younger. The AI as well, and all the misinformation coming out of Buckingham, is just people here are very suspicious. It's very suspicious, and it feels very dishonest. And I don't even think that she's necessarily a part of that. I think it's all this like weird system, but it's just disheartening that they have to spin all these lies around what's going on, and like taxpayer money funds this stuff, so makes it even worse.
I just feel like they've always been. I feel like what's happening now is because we live in like the information age, and we live in like, because I feel like when the royal family, you know, first started everything, like they controlled everything, right? They controlled the media, they controlled everything. Literally. So it was like people didn't have a way of finding out other information except by like word of mouth, or like, oh, my cousin's friend works in Buckingham Palace and blah, blah, like how many, you know, like how how far removed is this information really, you know? Right. So I feel like now they're losing control of the narratives because like immediately that video of her on the bench when she's
so weird.
Immediately, everyone, like, I mean, the hairs on my neck right now as I'm bringing it up, like you can look at it and you just,
that's not human.
Valley. There's like a weird, there's like a weird, like, oh, and like we are all just so media literate that we are able to see right through it. And because information, we're able to communicate with each other faster. I just feel like their lies and the spins that they do aren't landing the way that they were once able to back 100%. When you could only watch cable news and read the newspaper. Like
get the news like 6 weeks later after.
Right. Exactly. Like you're just like, oh, I guess this happened. But now it's like we're hearing things in real time, and it's getting harder for them to like control how they're spinning the narrative. And so, I just feel like I feel like it's just going to continue to get weirder.
It's going to get messier and weirder. It's also disheartening because I think because Will and Kate have kind of positioned themselves, and even Charles too. I can't even bring myself to call him king. It just like makes my skin crawl.
No, it makes me
I hate it.
And his little sausage fingers, I can't.
But they've kind of stood on this platform of, we're going to be this like more open and honest family. We're going to fight for mental health and for school lunches and stuff like that. And it's like, you're putting out AI videos and you can't even tell the truth about what's probably just a nip tuck down the road. Like, just tell the truth about it.
Right.
It's silly. It's just ridiculous.
Right.
This might interest you. It's kind of back to Harry and Meghan, but I read this morning, apparently this is the news that just came out. So Harry's been in like a ton of legal battles over here, suing the press for talking about them and yada, yada, yada. In one of those, he essentially, like, the royal family has now pulled private security. So they won't provide private security for Harry and Meghan if they come and visit. And that private security is the tax funded private security. So Harry released a statement overnight saying, well, we're not going to visit the UK anymore because it's not safe. It's too dangerous for me and my wife to come because they won't provide us with security, which is going to be, it's an insane amount of money, like $1.3 million pounds for like a weekend visit kind of thing. What do you think about that? Like, if you're not going to give us taxpayer security, we're not coming. The UK is too dangerous.
Okay. So like, as a human being who, like, I also, going back to me being a hater, I also like find it hard to humanize people who have such immense wealth and power.
Exactly.
So I also like don't really view them as human, but if I were to look at them as human, I could understand where they were coming from, because like, I get it. Like, okay, it is expensive. And like, if you want me to be here and you want to see me, like the least you can do is provide me with the fucking security that you know I need.
Yeah.
Like, it almost feels like they are doing it to punish him.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is.
Like, I don't think they're just doing it to be petty. I think they're doing it to like kind of coerce him back into the system. That is like real shitty, I think. But also the other part of me is like, bitch,
just pay for your own security.
Like, just pay for your own fucking security. You're telling me you still have $10 in your bank account?
Yeah.
I know that book sold. You made money off of that.
Yeah. And it's a private visit as well. So it was for like a private like funeral visit where they weren't going to make a state appearance. It was just going to be the two of them. And it's Meghan's birthday or something as well. So they were supposed to have some private thing with King Charles. Oh, I hate that. With Charles. And that's when they said, well, we're not going to pay for your security. So now there's been this whole thing in the media about the UK is too dangerous. And it's like, don't they live in California?
Right. Right. And like, okay, well, now that you're saying it's like a private thing, it's like, well, they're not going to be out and about in public. So like,
yeah, it's not a state visit.
Yeah, no, that's weird.
That's what I thought. I was like, just pay for your own security then. Like, why do the taxpayers need to protect you from your dad? Yeah, that kind of thing that sits weird with me.
Yeah, like you're going to be on your dad's property anyway, like
which is walled and has security.
You're not staying at a hotel in the heart of London. Like, I think you'll be fine.
Well, Harry said he's afraid that they will have an acid attack. That they will get stabbed or have an acid attack, which stabbings happen here. And there are plenty of crazy people and racists that would go after both of them. But I just wonder how realistic it is that
on private property, though, like that's
flying on a private jet.
And like there are other protected people there, right? Like, so like there is going to be private security protecting the other important people there. So like for me, I just kind of find that bizarre. Like
that's what I thought. It was very weird. But I think that kind of fits into like we go to the meeting because I'm sure he got paid to do this interview where he said this, right? So I feel like that's what it fits into. This is their money making machine now. It's like the scandal and the upset and the rabble.
Right. Yeah.
So, here's the big one. I would love to see what your opinion is on this, especially since you're a professional hater. Ye old Queen Camilla. Queen Camilla, the second woman, the other woman, finally getting her seat at the top.
I am and will always be Team Diana, 100%. But I do have to hand it to Camilla because she was in it for the long haul. She knew.
Oh, man.
She knew that was going to be her man. She knew that was going to be her man and that she was going to be queen. And part of me admires her for that. Do you know what I mean?
The absolute steel girdle on her.
Right. Because I'm a trifling hoe. So I can appreciate when another trifling hoe achieves their goal. So from that perspective, I feel like I get it. Yeah. I'm happy for her. And the thing is, I think the fact that she is just going to talk about like, you know, women existing just in the patriarchy and the fact that she's like under public scrutiny and in the public eye, like I feel like she's been punished enough. Yeah. She's been punished for her looks and the fact that she's I'm using air quotes if they, I don't know if I'm being video recorded.
I won't share the video, but I can verify the air quotes.
Yeah. Air quotes. She is a like whore, right? Yeah. Yeah. In like a bad way, derogatory way. That's how it's used against her. And so I feel like that's punishment enough. I feel I don't want to add any more hate to that, but I do think it's bizarre. Yeah. I do think it's like bizarre that she is the queen because she was just so publicly hated and like even within the system, allegedly.
Oh yeah, no, people over here hate her.
Like none of the family liked her, so it is a little bizarre that it actually ended up happening that she is the queen. But
I would love them to make the docuseries on that, like the docudrama series on her just still knuckling her way through 30 years of everyone in that family hating her and dying and her eventually getting her way.
Right, and then part of me is also like, I would love to see the documentary, but then I'm also like, well, how much of that is going to be like actually honest?
Oh, it wouldn't be.
You know what I mean? Like, that's why I have a hard time watching anything about the royal family. Cause what is it? The Crown? Is that the show on Netflix?
Yeah. I stopped that after one season.
Right. I couldn't get past the second episode because it was just like so clearly
a PR
just
campaign.
Like trying to paint them in like this beautiful light. And I'm like,
well, the writer, I think, met the queen and like, or the queen okayed it, or they had like some kind of approval from the queen, which means it's total bullshit.
Right. Like if you're going to get the approval from the queen, then it's probably biased and you're probably not telling like a real authentic version of the story, you know?
Which is so weird. Like, I don't understand the secrecy. Who gives a shit? Like they have so much money. They're so removed. They have so much power and they don't even do anything. Like they don't really serve a purpose other than tourism in the country. So it's like, I just don't understand the secrecy. Like they might as well just let your Jerry Springer hang out. Just let us see all the weird. Your fans are still going to love you because they love you anyway. And like, who cares? You're this like 800-year-old inbred family. Just be weird.
Correct. Correct. German. So
that's
weird.
That's it as well.
I was an adult when I learned that. I was like, you mean they're not fucking British?
No.
Like genetically, they're not genetically British. That's crazy.
It's also funny when you see the like little England people here. They're like, yeah, the UK nationalists who are going hard for them. They're like, yeah, British for the British. It's like the people on your flag aren't even British. Like, what are you talking about?
I can't. I also was an adult when I learned that, like, I don't know, like I didn't really pay attention in like middle school, like when we like learned about all this stuff. No. But like all of the royal families throughout all of Europe were all basically like from the same family.
Habsburgs.
Yeah. And, right. And like, but like even like the Tsar of Russia was like the king, I don't know what his name was at the time, but the king's first cousin, and they were like besties. Like he like asked for help to like flee Russia, and the guy from Britain was like, sorry,
good luck. I think the Tsarina was the niece of Queen Victoria. Yeah. So like right in there.
They're all so related. And that to me is mind boggling.
It's crazy. There was like a concentrated thing by the Habsburgs. I'm also like a history nerd, but the Habsburg family basically made the decision somewhere in like the 1600s or the 1500s. They literally were like, we're going to take over every royal family in Europe. And that's what they did. And it's so creepy.
That's crazy. Also, I will say the fact that they were able to breed that jaw out is insane, because you don't see that in the current royal family.
No
of them that I know of. But every time I do see somebody with that jaw, I'm always like,
I do as well.
Are you a descendant?
Here's a fun fact that might tickle you pink. There were Habsburgs on Epstein's flight log. Boop, 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 boop.
Wait, people still have that same last name?
Yeah, there's still members of the Habsburg family are still kicking around in like Austria and Switzerland and stuff, and they have a ton of money and they're super secretive.
Of course they were. Well, not to get too off track, but did you hear the conspiracy theory? And this is like, no, I did not do any research into this. This is me just.
That's fine. This isn't that kind of episode.
Foil hat conspiracy theories that I see online and just being like, yep, this is my reality now. Yeah. So there was like this theory that like Epstein was like a Mossad agent, and that he was like purposely doing publicly bad things and like getting people, like famous people or people with a lot of power, to be associated with him so that he could then blackmail them and like have control. Like, that was something that I heard, and again, did not do any critical thinking about or research into, and just kind of was like, honestly, I buy it.
Yeah, he was absolutely blackmailing people, and like all the video recording stuff that he had in those houses and the secret cameras everywhere. Like that's going to come out somewhere someday. Someone has those videos. Someone has all that stuff somewhere on a hard drive, and that is going to. But it's obviously like conspiracy and all that kind of stuff. But he had to have been blackmailing people, because
100%.
Again, we're kind of spinning, but like when I was listening to an episode of the last podcast, and there was like in the 80s or the 70s, there was this big government ring that got outed in the US. I think they were in like Iowa or Ohio or something. And it was a child sex ring of these local officials. And it supposedly spun out and was a lot bigger. But these public officials, and this is all like real, this was a case, it went to trial, people went to prison. They were doing that. They were basically getting local politicians involved with children and then filming it and then using them as blackmail. So I would not put it past Epstein to be involved in something like that at all.
No. And it makes sense too, because like in those like, so there's that like one little clip that always goes viral of Ghislaine Maxwell, like trying to take a picture with Mariah Carey. Yeah. She's like pushing her away. Because honestly, thank God. Good for Mariah.
I bet she knew.
Fuck are you? Either she knew or she genuinely had no idea who this bitch was. And she
it could have been either.
For me. But like all it takes is just one photo of you smiling. Because like at those events, I mean, celebrities don't really all know each other. Like,
Yeah.
they just kind of walk past each other. They get a photo sometimes, like, and that's that. And it's like, it's not necessarily that they're friends or that they know each other. They're just at an event together.
Yeah.
And it's like a work event, essentially. And so Mariah Carey very easily could have just, smiled for the camera.
Posed right there.
That's all that would have been needed to be like, look, she's best friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. And like, that to the conspiracy theory list. You know what I'm saying? Like, so,
I always take those as like Ghislaine is just, those were the people she was trying to butter up. I go by the flight logs. Like the flight logs is what seals it for me. Like that's where I'm going, you're a bad person.
Right.
If you're on the plane.
But then and like, maybe this is just because I'm a simpleton and am poor. And so I like can't imagine how this would work. But then the other part of me is like, okay, you're on the flight logs, but like, I feel like celebrities do that. And I'm not excusing. I'm not.
No.
I mean, Epstein is disgusting. And the people who are associated with him, I assume the worst and until proven innocent. But like, I just feel like when you have that much money and you are at that level of celebrity, it's like, oh yeah, we'll take my private jet this week. Or like, do you know what I'm saying? Or like,
no,
you
absolutely.
need a private jet. Like, yeah, we'll charter. I'll send it to you. You can use that. Like, I just feel like that is like, I feel like that is more common for people who have that immense amount of wealth.
Yeah.
And
that could even be part of the blackmail. Like they don't even actually have to go and mess with kids because like, let's say you've taken a couple flights with them, then your name's there. And if you go to him and be like, this is wrong, he can go, well, you're in on it. Your names are right here with everybody else. So.
Exactly. And so I feel like that was also used kind of as blackmail as well as like, oh, look, 100%. You're associated with me. You were on my private jet.
Yeah. Yeah. But then it's also like, I feel like these circles are so small. I mean, they're big, right? Like there's thousands of people in these circles, but also they're small enough that rumors have to get around. Like rumors must get around. And there was definitely rumors around Epstein and where people were being like, just maybe don't deal with him. Just maybe don't work with him. Just the same way with Weinstein. There was like, I read something where Rob Zombie purposefully bombed a movie because Weinstein was funding it. And he found out somewhere in there that Weinstein was this big predator. It was before Me Too. So Rob Zombie made like the worst movie of his career to get out of the contract with the Weinstein company. So it feels like, there's rumors. And so I don't know, if I heard a rumor about somebody that involved kids, I just wouldn't be getting into vehicles or planes with them.
100%. 100%. Like I 100% agree. It's like if you hear an inkling of something being fucked up, like wouldn't you just want to preserve your own?
Yeah, you've worked so hard. You got all this money and you got fame. Right. I would just be more. I don't know. I feel like I would be more sensitive about who's around me.
Correct.
Doing more digging.
Yes, 100%. I would want to protect my own reputation for sure.
Well, I think that's also like, I will say with Prince Andrew, though, which is kind of bringing it back to the royals, I'm 100% convinced he's guilty. Like anything they tell me about Prince Andrew that they say he did it. I believe it 100%. Yep. I don't need any more evidence. I'm sold. Yeah,
100%. And like going back to like even what I said before of like, I'm going to assume that anybody that's on the flight logs or anybody that was like even kind of remotely associated with Epstein, I'm going to assume that they are guilty.
Yeah.
And unless I see a lot of evidence saying that they are not, great. But yes, I'm going to 100%. I think Prince Andrew, 100%.
Yeah. I mean,
did everything and more. I'm sure
when he said, I don't sweat, it couldn't be me. I don't sweat. I was like, that's it. You did it. That's absolutely absurd. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life.
Right.
Yeah, Charles keeps him around, which is very interesting because that was kind of like one of the promises. I think that was not promises because they don't do that, but that was one of the things that was indicated. It was like he was going to be stripped of his title and he was going to be kicked out of the family. But they seem to be giving Harry and Meghan a harder time than Andrew. Yep. Which is wild to me. Absolutely wild to me.
Yeah. That is bizarre.
Yeah. He gets way more. He's like been reinstated. I think recently there was a whole bunch of like reinstatements. He got given back a house and took over duties while Charles was getting chemotherapy and just like ridiculous. A man who abused children.
Yeah. But honestly, that doesn't surprise me. I just feel like that's par for the course. You know?
Yeah. I'm actually really quite surprised that there was there was I guess Kate's got a book coming out, which just got announced, which is, whatever. But apparently the thing that she's pushing around this book is she doesn't want any more family drama, and she wants the family to be healed, and she wants the family to be back together. But how do you come back from like this level of a breach, especially when it was like all the way down through Will and Kate and Harry and Meghan? It's not just like old racist parents fighting. It's like the whole family. How do they bring that back together?
I don't know. And this is like me in my conspiracy theory era. I think, first of all, I don't think she wrote a goddamn word in that book.
Never.
I think it is absolutely being ghost written for her, 100%. And they're slapping her name on the book. But also I feel like it's one of those things in terms of like going back to like spinning and how they have a lot of like control over the media. Like I think they're writing this book to appeal to like the everyday person who like lives in a nuclear family and like wants to like keep the family together and who might be going through their own family drama and all that kind of stuff. Like they're kind of like appealing to those like traditional Christian nuclear family values, even though they don't actually live that traditional family. Like the royal family is not a traditional family. Like they don't like live a normal life the way that a normal family would. And so the idea of like trying to heal the family, I feel like is just, again, spin to make her look like a good mom and a good wife and a noble future queen. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I thought as well. I was like, oh, she's going to be a queen to heal the people.
Right. They're already planting the seeds to like make her a loved queen for sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair. Well, since we're we'll sit in our conspiracy theory era for a minute. What do you think was the split between Kate and Will and Harry and Meghan? Like, where do you think it was Kate being the racist one? Do you think that they were just like, what do you think broke that up?
I don't know. I feel like so many different things could have happened. Like, I feel.
What do you favor?
Part of me wants to believe that a lot of the drama is like kind of consumed by the media. Like I wonder, part of me wonders, like, did Kate and Meghan like actually not get along, or was it just something that like the media took over? Like
just
they needed a scapegoat, they needed to blame something on somebody, and so they again used Meghan as like a way to prop up Kate, because Kate is the next in line to be the queen. And so
they also painted Kate as like the victim of that.
Right. Yeah. Of course, which is all rooted in like racism and again, misogyny. So part of me wonders if there ever really was drama between the four of them, like real drama.
Yep.
But then also, I don't know. I feel like if somebody were to be problematic, I would believe it would be Will or Kate to start something for sure.
What do you think about the rumor that it was something to do with Will's affair with that girl that woman who looks just like his wife?
You mean like this, like, oh.
It was Rose I think her name's Rose Hanbury. Probably totally wrong, and I'm not even going to Google her, but Will supposedly has been in this relationship with Rose Hanbury, who lives in their there's this little country rag online that I found once, and it's like the Gossip Girl of the posh, like this posh little country British neighborhood that they all live in. And it's been going around for years and years, and there's a lot of pictures of the two of them, like with Will and Rose on holiday together, no Kate and things like that. But he's supposedly been in this affair with this woman for years and years and years, and she's his true love, and she's had a kid that they claim is his. And
yes, I've heard all of that.
Yeah. And so there were rumors that the split, because Harry made some comments, and there was some awkwardness, I think, at the coronation, and they said that one of the breaches was because Harry got upset with Will because Will was basically doing what his dad did, and like what happened to their mother and the whole thing, and he was basically like, you're putting Kate into Diana's position and yada yada yada. So that was one of the rumors. Do you think that they would break over something like that?
I mean, I think it could. I don't think that would have been what broke the camel's back, but I think that could have been. I could see that being added to the tension, just like on the list of things that could have caused it for sure.
I wonder if Will would do that though. Like I don't know. I mean, there seems to be a lot of compelling evidence, but the way they've spoken about your mother, it seems weird to carry on the same way.
Right. but then also part of me is like, according to rumors that I've seen, like William has like a terrible like temper.
Oh yeah.
And so part of me wonders if the split had a lot to do with that, and like if he was kind of the perpetrator of a lot of like the alleged like racist speak. Because I don't know, maybe I'm behind, but did they ever reveal who it exactly was that made the comment?
Not that I know of.
The last I heard, it was still speculation that like it was William or Kate who made a comment about.
That's what I got narrowed down to, because when I heard it, I think Philip was still alive when some of this stuff got kicked up, or he had just died or something. And so I just went, oh, it's Philip or the Queen. Like, for sure. They're old, they're racist. They've said and done tons of racist stuff. But the way the media kind of milled it down, they made it sound like it was either Will or Kate. And of course, they kind of leaned towards Kate, which I don't know. I'm not saying that you would want to be like best friends with a woman like that who's been raised to like live that lifestyle. But the way I've seen her interact with people and kids, I just always thought, well, if it's supposed to be Will or Kate, I favor Will as like saying the horrible racist shit and like being an asshole.
100%. Like, I think either of them definitely could have said it. But if I had to pick one, I would say that I think Will.
Yeah.
Definitely the one to say it.
It was interesting that they all, like, that cousin that killed him. There was a cousin that killed himself recently, which was right around the time like Kate disappeared. And everyone jumped to Will. They're like, Will did it. Will killed him. And I didn't know that, but I didn't know that Will had a temper rumor kind of thing. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was like known to have a temper. And I guess that's why people flew to that reaction.
Right. Yeah. Well, the conspiracy theory was that cousin had knowledge about. So I think part of what it was that like so there was the theory that like Will beat the shit out of Kate.
Yeah.
And that she was like either dead or she was in a coma and blah, blah, blah. And like her family, like her parents didn't know like where she was or the state of her or whatever. But like apparently like that cousin that killed himself like knew the state and was like gonna out the situation and like tell the truth about the situation. And so like the theory was that like Will then went and killed him or had him killed or something.
So dramatic. Those theories were wild.
Right. And honestly, and that's why I loved it so much, because it was one of those things where like, again, going back to like, I don't really view the royal family as humans. Like they have an amount of wealth that like truly is not even perceivable to the average human brain. Like,
they own the coast. Right. They own the seabed.
They have so much power and money.
It's crazy.
So for me, it's like a very low stakes thing. It's kind of like, it's like the way that like I would care about like what happened on Pretty Little Liars. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's a tabloid.
It's not real. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So like it was just like fun to consider, and like it was fun to just kind of like hear what everyone thought. Mm-hmm. Because I had a couple of videos go viral around the time that like the AI photo was posted, and then the video where like the ring was missing, like the ring, like
so weird. Yeah.
Like, yeah, they showed a video as like proof of life, and then it was clearly AI. But back when all that was happening, I had like 2 or 3 videos kind of go viral on TikTok. Yeah. And like the theories that people were posting in the comments of that were like actually insane. But it was also one of those things where like, who fucking knows?
Yeah, nobody knows, because they never tell us the truth about anything.
Right. Like, I'm not necessarily believing it, but I'm not going to not believe it.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. None of that would have happened if they were truthful about stuff. If they were truthful about just how average and crappy and weird they are, people would have been like, oh, it's fine. One of them's probably in the hospital. You know what I mean? Like, just be normal. Right. But the theories were fun. I think there was a lot of people who should have been writing books, because some of the plots that people were coming up around her not being in the public eye.
I wonder how many like fan fictions are going to be, like how many books are going to become movies, and it's going to be like, oh, by the way, it's going to come out like later that it was like a fan fiction of what they think happened.
Yeah. Did you get any like really, really good theories that you can remember? Like like the craziest theories?
I think the craziest one was the one of like the cousin who, it was like the cousin who like killed himself. I thought that was pretty interesting. And the fact that like William didn't show up to that cousin's funeral.
Yeah, someone said he had a black eye as well. Like he showed up with a black eye around the same time.
Right. And like he didn't show up to the funeral because for whatever reason he couldn't make it. But like he and that cousin were like close. And then there was also a rumor that like that cousin and Kate were having an affair, which is why he knew so much because I mean, it was just like, so I would say that was like the juiciest one because again, there's nothing to prove it. And we will likely never know. Like we will never know.
Not until they're all dead. We'll never know until they're all dead.
And not for nothing, it doesn't affect my life, whether or not it happened. So I'm happy to entertain the idea that it's possible.
Sure. Why not? Why not?
I thought it was pretty juicy. I thought it was pretty fun to entertain that thought. Not going to lie.
It is because I think something juicy did happen. I mean, like you look now, like I'm a big fan of the Tudors, like the real life Tudors, like historically, not the show. But you get stories now of stuff that comes out because they'll find a letter that was written that was like buried in somebody's desk for 500 years. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, no, Anne Boleyn had a temper tantrum in the court in front of people and slapped Henry and slapped this other girl and called her a whore and fired her out of court and stuff. And like the average person wouldn't know that. Back then, during that time, a contemporary person was just like the people in the room. But we get these stories now, and there's so much like juicy, ridiculous chaos that goes on behind these doors. Yeah, and I just wish we knew. I just want to consume it for fun. Housewives have gotten old. Right. That's it.
Yes.
Well, that's good. The only other thing I've really got is like the other big news that came out, which touches on the political stuff. So I thought that you might have more to add on this than I do because it smacks of like an American style of existence. But so the royal family gets their money from what's called the Royal Sovereign Fund here in the UK. They get a percentage. They're supposed to get a percentage of what they contribute to the government through their houses and all the other businesses that they run. And last year they got like $86 million. And Charles has now finagled with this law that allows them to do this. And next year they're going to be getting $132 million of the taxpayers' money raised from 86 million. Yeah. That's going to,
is crazy because again, like, they already have
so much money.
Like that's just their income. Like if I'm understanding this correctly, that's just going to be their income for that year.
Exactly.
Right. Like, so that's compounding on top of whatever they already have fucking sitting in banks. And on top of just all the shit, like they are the culmination of like hundreds of years of like raping and pillaging
and hoarding the
global south. Like they have so many artifacts that are worth so many hundreds of millions, billions of
priceless
dollars. Just like sitting in their homes, like or sitting somewhere, you know what I mean? Like,
just sitting on a table where they smoke cigars.
Right. Like they have so much wealth, and the fact that they are then raising almost doubling, not quite, but they are. Oh my God, that is crazy. That's like a $50 million increase.
Yeah. And the whole, like, it was a law that was passed in 2011 here by David Cameron. And it's supposed to be set up where it's this percentage that fluctuates with the state of the economy. And like, I'm not an economist, but living here in the UK, I can tell you the economy here is shit right now. Like people are struggling so hard. There's like thousands and thousands and thousands of people every day going to food banks and all this other stuff. And the claim is, oh, well, the economy in Britain is doing so much better. So he's going to get this extra uplift of money that he somehow pushed for. And it's all their complicated thing. But here's what makes it even crappier to me is that I thought that this was just like the taxpayers pay the family and then this goes into like the family's government account. It's all run through a private corporation. The whole thing. It's run through a private corporation who does all the money for them and manages all their businesses and all their land and everything else.
That honestly, it makes sense because that's what a lot of rich people do.
Yep.
Even so, like I do theater and there are a lot of theater performers who will create an LLC or create a corporate. I mean, depending on how rich they are, if they're like an average, if they're just doing like Broadway or whatever, like, and they're not like rich and famous, like they might not do a corporation, but like they'll do LLCs. And so they'll get all the payment will go to the LLC.
And they just have to pay the tax there.
Because there's like tax perks to doing it that way. Yeah. And so it makes sense that when they're dealing with that amount of money that the royal family is, dealing with, that it would be through a corporation, because corporations don't pay any taxes.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not sure how it works in Great Britain, but I'm assuming that it's similar to how it is in the US, where corporations pay no taxes.
Yeah, so, and there'll be a million loopholes that they can take advantage of, because there's like historic properties and military owned properties and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that honestly that checks out. Yeah, for what I would
tracks.
assume.
I was like, that sounds familiar. That kind of.
And also the whole idea that like the economy is doing well, it just goes to prove that like the economy is not a reflection of like how the average person is doing.
Yeah.
The economy is like how good businesses are doing. And like when they're raising profits and like when they're like raising prices and like keeping wages stagnant, like, yes, obviously the company is going to do better financially. And so like the economy is going to be doing well. But so using the economy as a reason to give the royal family a raise is kind of, it's just like, it's like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. But the economy is already only managing, or it really only is a reflection of like how rich people are doing. So yes, if rich people are doing well, of course,
then it's doing
better. Family's going to get a raise. Like it just is like one of those things where it's like me.
I think that is separate, because they also get money to maintain their estates. So I think like Buckingham Palace, they just got like a $200 million grant or something like that to upgrade Buckingham Palace so that it's up to Charles and Camilla's standards, because I believe the quote that was used was, it's unfit for purpose, it's unfit for living. Freaking Buckingham Palace, where the Queen has been living for like the last 65 years. So that's like even more money that, again, it's going to go into that corporation, and it's going to get written off on taxes and everything else.
I'm going to quote Renee Graziano of Mob Wives. Bitch belongs in a sewer. Okay. Buckingham Palace is not up to their standards. Yeah. Go fuck yourself. Like, why?
Yeah. And that's like Charles and Camilla. That's been their thing. That's what they do.
Hard-boiled eggs. Like, you do not deserve good things, and you already live in Buckingham Palace. What?
Yeah. There was like when I first moved here like 10 years ago, there was some scandal because Camilla got given like 20 million to renovate some cottage that she lived in. And then wherever the two of them have been living in Buckinghamshire or wherever, they also just got like 150 million last year or right before the Queen died to redo that estate. So they get all this money from the government to repurpose and refurbish. And it's hideous. It's like the most garish, overexpensive, like insane, terrible wallpaper and stuff you've ever seen in your life. But they get all of this on top of the sovereign grant that they get from the government, which is all taxpayers. It's all taxpayer money.
100%. Yeah.
Absolutely twisted.
That does not surprise me. I have to be real. That does not surprise me. It tracks. It makes sense with exactly how I would expect the royal family to operate. I just feel like, how much longer do they think they're going to get away with it?
Yeah. Well, that was my next question for you. It was like, how long do you think this lasts? Like, how long do we keep entertaining this? How long is this viable?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't think, I think the way that we are taught about like revolutions is deeply, deeply, inaccurate. Yeah. It's taught to us in this like Disney movie way, or like this like romanticized way. And I don't think that that's really how they happen. I think there will be little moments. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if like there was like an assassination attempt at somebody in the royal family, somebody, maybe not Philip. I'm not Philip, maybe not Charles, but somebody, you know, I just feel like things like that are going to keep happening.
Yeah. As people get more and more disenfranchised.
Right. Even here in America, like I don't think that what happened to Trump is going to be an isolated incident. I think it's just going to keep happening.
Yeah.
The more and more fed up people are. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we're going to keep, I feel like because this is all we know, and like zooming out for a second, like I feel like capitalism is all we know because it's not just our generation that was raised on capitalism. It was like our grandparents' generation that was raised on it. And so it's like so deeply ingrained in who we are and we don't even fucking realize it.
Yeah.
Half the time. Like it's just like we do so many things that we don't even realize in the moment are like it's just so in our brains. But so I feel like people are afraid to like, I don't think we're gonna get like a public guillotining of like the royal family. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I don't either.
I just don't know. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. And there are so many people, and they've already brainwashed so many people into thinking, into like being their fans and supporting them and like thinking that they're good people, that like, I don't even think that enough people would mobilize to do such a thing. Does that make sense?
No, I kind of see them just kind of like withering out like Lestat in an abandoned house in New Orleans, you know, like the last one of them all crippled and inbred is just kind of die. And then that'll be on the news one day. There's no more Windsors.
Yes, I am thinking the same thing. Like they're always going to have money. They just may not be operating in the same way that like we are used to seeing them.
I always question how much of the Romanov wealth they ended up getting, because when the Romanovs got taken down by Russia, they were, you know, the richest family in the world. And so many of them fled to other parts of Europe. And like, I will never be convinced that there was not some kind of like kickback for England keeping their nose out of things. And I just wonder where all that money went and how much of that has gone into the Windsor pockets.
And like, not to put my conspiracy theorist hat back on, but like part of me also wonders like how much of that story was romanticized, like
100%.
The whole story of like Anastasia, like that whole thing. I mean, obviously it was like not based in reality, and like Anastasia did not survive.
Great music.
Right. Yeah. Once Upon a December. Yeah. I will absolutely sing along.
Banger.
But like, part of me wonders if that's like what actually happened. Did they actually get gunned down? Like, or was that just part of the narrative so that we're like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, did they part of me wonders like if they did actually flee. Some of them definitely did. Now the core family, I think they probably got, I read a book that explained some terrible stuff. I don't know why I read stuff like this, but I read a book that talked about what the soldiers did with the bodies after, which is so horrifying. Definitely was not in the movie. But I wonder how much involvement basically other governments had to like keep their hands out of things and to let this happen, and to not hold the new government of Russia to account after it happened, because Lenin was terrified that people were going to find out the way things went down with some of the family members. So that's kind of where, I guess that's where my conspiracy goes, is I just wonder, like, because the Romanovs, they couldn't even calculate how much wealth they had when they died. There was just like so much insane wealth because they had ruled Russia for like 1,000 years or something crazy, you know? And to just see their own family be like, nope, sorry, doors closed, you can't come here. I just wonder how much of that wealth migrated there. Yeah. I also wonder. Questions. We'll never get answers with the royals. We'll never know. We'll never know, because I feel like, again, like when you're dealing with at that level of like power and wealth, it's another world. It's another reality. It's entirely a completely different reality that like what they say happens and what, you know, what makes its way into the layperson's media is like just could be completely different than what actually happened. And like, that's fun to speculate. Because even like the way, so for example, like people speculate that like Hitler didn't actually set himself on fire. Like, do you know that conspiracy theory? So like part of me wonders in a similar vein, if like the Romanovs getting shot and like because they had jewels allegedly like sewn into their, so they had to like actually like stab them with the guns because they weren't dying from the bullets. Like part of me wonders if these are all just like unnecessary details that they're adding to like sell the story, you know? And like 100%. Part of me wonders like what happened. Like maybe they did. I think they wanted people to believe that versus what actually happened, because basically it was the soldiers were the people that were like imprisoning them
hated them and did horrible things to them after their death. It's definitely documented. And so I think it's nicer to just for them to sell that story of like, oh, they like we just stabbed them and we threw them in a hole and we put some lime on them. And it's like way, 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 way worse, especially to the child's body and stuff. So I think, and I even think some of the bodies that we've been shown are probably not the real bodies, because I think the real bodies were probably some of them were probably too mangled, too destroyed. And also I still to this day, like the book that I read, it's hard for them to get information from the Russian government because the Russian government still doesn't want the full documentation and extent of what happened with the Romanovs out there because it was apparently so gruesome. But also let me say this, the Romanovs were pieces of shit. Like the Tsar and the Tsarina were zealot, fanatical, narcissistic, egotistical, horrible people. And I'm not surprised that they ended the way they did. I just kind of feel bad for the kids, the younger kids.
Yeah, right. Like they couldn't help that they were born into that, right? Like we didn't choose to be born. So
yeah, but it's just wild that the royal family was just like, the royal family in the UK was just like, nope, bye. Have fun getting murdered.
Right. So sorry.
Yeah.
Right. So bizarre. Oh my God, with the jaw. I'm dead.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I think that's been a great talk. I mean,
this was so fun.
We could probably keep going for years on scandals with these people, and it's never going to stop. But this was such a fun chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Tell people where they can find you. Like, where can they find you on TikTok?
You can find me on TikTok, Johnny Wizzz, JohnnyWizzz. I have that same handle on Instagram, and then on Twitter, Johnny Wizzz, spelled the same way, but with the number 3 at the end, because I wished. So I had my previous 2 Twitter accounts were banned because I tweeted not nice things at politicians both times, and so I had to make a 3rd account. So that's where you can find me.
I know that pain. Excellent. That's so good. And definitely go follow him. Like I said, you're kind of like, I love when I see your videos come up because I'm like, I'm not going to be gaslit for a few seconds. I'm actually going to have some like honesty in the political sphere. So thank you so much for that. I love your stuff.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you everybody for listening. I hope you loved the episode, and we will be back next week with another great one. Bye.
Yay, bye.